So Raphael Warnock used to be the head of the New Georgia Project, which is now under investigation for allegedly registering voters from out of state. But I was told by the mainstream media that there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever of any kind of election fraud.
Well, obviously, given all the testimony throughout the United States over the last week that Mr. Giuliani's been doing in jurisdictions everywhere, Arizona, Michigan today, Pennsylvania, it's fairly obvious that there has been a systematic erosion of voter integrity throughout the country with regard to ballot counting, mail in, mail out, and absentee ballot counting. So no matter what the mainstream media says, this election has been terribly, terribly run, especially in the four swing states that mattered most, with the four major cities where most of the voter fraud occurred.
And Georgia is one of those states that everyone has their eyes on, and it seems like there's a pattern with Democrats, especially in the state of fraud, of election irregularities. The New Georgia Project, for example, before Warnock took over as the head back in 2014, before he joined, there was other investigations as well into his project for allegedly faking voter registration forms as well. So it seems like with Democrats, there's a pattern of this going back many years. It's not just this 2020 election.
Well, actually, as you know, more than 3 years ago, the Democratic Party nationally filed lawsuits in all 50 states to get absentee voting, mail-in voting, and other voting made illegal and to legalize it. And so what we have now is we got a patchwork of laws, many of them passed in violation of state constitutions, many of them not laws at all, done by fiat, by governors and secretaries of state, all for the purpose of making it easier to get mail-in ballots. This was destined to be a mess, and everything that we've seen since Election Day proves that it's been nothing but a big mess.
And when it comes to Georgia's Secretary of State, for example, he's the one who announced this investigation in the first place this week. What do you make of his handling of claims of voter irregularities in his state when it comes to the general, when it comes to that?
Well, it's interesting. He's had a rather, seemed almost indifferent feel about it. He's very defensive. He's trying to suggest that there was nothing wrong to see here, notwithstanding an amazing number of complaints filed by citizens, by poll watchers, by party officials, even Democrats, about the way counting went on, about the lack of access to the counting areas for Republicans. I think one thing is clear. Even though there's a Republican governor and a Republican Secretary of State, they're just not up to the job, and we've seen that in the Secretary of State. Now he seems to have gotten some guts with this issue of the Warnock matter involving his previous Get Out the Vote organization, so that may have some impact, but it's really too little, too late.
And now we're looking at January. There's 2 Senate runoff elections for the state of Georgia. This January, of course, Warnock is going up against Kelly Loeffler in the state. Do you think that Georgia has taken enough precautions to ensure we don't see a repeat of what we saw November 3rd again in Georgia?
Well, it's pretty hard to tell from here because right now it looks like the same procedures are going to be in place. There was rampant irregularities. And the most important thing of all is you got to have observers in the counting room so that when the absentee ballots, the mail-in ballots, and the mail-out ballots are open, people can observe the signature, the date stamp, the postage, everything. If they can't do that, there's no way to tell whether or not the ballot that's in that envelope is a legitimate ballot. So they're going to have to up their game on allowing observers from both parties, Republican and Democrat, in to see. We'll see whether or not they can do that. If not, we may end up exactly where we ended up on November the 4th and where we are now.